Will Donald Trump dip his toes into the mayor's race? Will New York take center stage in next year's congressional races? Lots of questions and maybe some answers. The Point starts right now. In these fraught political times, Congressman Mike Lawler decides to run for re-election. Now, I know that this is an effort to help you keep control of the House, but this is like a fungible thing that's going on now with everything that's going on in Texas and other states. And I do want to talk about your bill, but first I want to talk about the fact that President Trump is now saying he wants to recensus the whole country so that we can eliminate undocumented from the census count. I wonder if you think that is a good idea.
Well, if you look back, I mean, colleagues like Yvette Clarke have been on the record saying that part of the reason why they support sanctuary policies is because it helps give them more folks to count in the census, meaning New York gets more congressional seats and more electoral votes. This has been a long brewing fight about whether or not undocumented immigrants should be counted as part of the census. In my view, they should not. Lawful immigrants, legal permanent residents, green card holders, those here on a visa should. And so that's something obviously that is going to be discussed. But it goes to a bigger point right now, which is there really aren't that many competitive congressional seats in the country. And so control of Congress is very slim. We have very slim margin in the House. My seat is one of only 3 in the country in which Kamala Harris won, and a Republican is representing it. And so this is going to be a big fight heading into 2026. Democrats and Republicans in blue states, red states fighting over redistricting. It's laughable to watch Kathy Hochul because, number one, Democrats in New York did try to gerrymander our maps in 2022, and they were slapped down by the Court of Appeals for violating the state constitution and violating the will of the voters.
But yet you have a bill that you want to outlaw gerrymandering, which would also outlaw what the people in Texas want to do, right? Entirely.
Look, gerrymandering is a disaster for our country. When you look at 435 House seats, only 35 were decided by 5 points or less last November. Only 35. Mine wasn't one of them. I won by 6.5 points. So when you look at the competitive nature of these districts, this is why they're trying to gerrymander across the state. And remember, New York did mid-decade redistricting just last year. Because they didn't like the outcome of the 2022 elections, they unceremoniously removed Janet DeFiore as chief judge. They stacked the court. They got the court to order new maps be drawn. Then they tried to gerrymander it again, picked up 3 seats, and now they want to go for a third bite at the apple. You look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin had a Supreme Court race earlier this year. The whole fight was over whether or not they would be able to redistrict. And now, of course, you see what Texas is doing. California is threatening. This is destructive to the country. I don't like gerrymandering. I think it is wrong. I think our country would be better served if you had more competitive districts all across the country in which members of Congress had to appeal to a general election audience as opposed to just talking to their respective bases.
So given the fact that Washington is a very, very partisan place and Republicans in your party control both houses of Congress, what chance does your bill have of passing and preventing Texas and actually your president from trying to get this passed and to gerrymander some seats to redistrict mid-census?
Look, this is a tit for tat that we're seeing. And again, I remind everybody, New York already did mid-decade redistricting just last year. So for Kathy Hochul now to say she's outraged about mid-decade redistricting, that's exactly what happened in New York. But this is fundamentally wrong. It's why I am going to be introducing legislation to ban gerrymandering, ban mid-decade redistricting. We're going to build consensus and fight to get it done. But this is something that universally, I think most Americans would agree. The idea that you're going to pick who your constituents are by gerrymandering the map is wrong. You look at Illinois. They gerrymandered the map so badly that there's only 3 Republicans representing the state in Congress. Meanwhile, uniformly, in election after election, Republicans are getting 40+% of the vote in Illinois.
So do you think that your bill would lead to more Republican seats, less Republican seats, or just more competitive seats and let the chips fall where they may?
I think it will lead to fairer elections. Look at New York. The map that we had in 2022 that was drawn by a court-appointed special master resulted in Republicans winning 11 of 26 seats. Now we control 7. The map allows for, broadly speaking, us to go from anywhere from 6 to 11. That is good for New York. That's good for the country. It allows for competition. It means that these seats matter. It means that we can debate the issues. By the way, a major issue like SALT wouldn't have happened if I and some of my New York colleagues weren't down in Washington. We got that done because we were the difference between having a Republican majority or not. And so we had the ability to exert ourselves in that process.
Well, I think we should also point out that while you are a Republican, you won in a district that has, I think, 20,000 more.
80,000 more Democrats than Republicans. And look, I've been rated the 4th most bipartisan member of Congress. I was the #1 most effective freshman member. I passed 11 bills. 6 were signed into law by President Biden. It is precisely because I've been able to work across the aisle to get things done. If more members were in districts like mine and had to do that, Washington would function a lot better than it does.
Well, so you also have another bill that's sort of interesting to me, and that is that you want to have affordable and available child care, which is something that we've seen in the mayoral race here, where Mr. Mamdani had Elizabeth Warren come in just this past week to talk about the need to have universal child care. Is this something that you think you can build consensus on among Republicans and Democrats?
Well, part of the One Big Beautiful Bill included expanding the child care tax credit and expanding out the ability of employers to help provide child care access. So we had significant wins when it comes to child care, but I think this is an issue that impacts everybody regardless of party. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 9-month-old. I'm fortunate. We moved my in-laws here to live with us after I got elected to Congress, and it's been a tremendous help. But not everybody is able to do that. And, you know, my wife and I both work. That is essential to be able to provide for our families. So child care access is critical. I think this is something that all of us as Republicans and Democrats can and should work on together. You look at the fact that our birth rate has declined precipitously over the last 15 years. Our marriage rate has declined. A big part of this is because of the cost of living and the cost of child care. It is very difficult for people to raise a family, especially in high tax areas like New York.
So another thing that I wanted to talk about that's been going on in the Trump administration has been the tariffs. And, you know, Kathy Hochul over the past week has been talking about the lack of businesses on the border, the northern border with Canada, you know, fewer tourist businesses being hurt. I wonder what you think the effect of the tariffs are here in New York and whether there should be some changes.
Yeah, as I've said from the beginning, tariffs as a short-term negotiating tool to force fair trade can be effective. And we've already seen with Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, the EU, those trade deals coming online, that they have been an effective tool for that purpose. Canada and Mexico in particular are entirely reliant on the U.S. economy. And ultimately, they're going to have to cut a trade deal with the United States and come to an agreement. Obviously, long term, we want great cooperation between Canada and the United States. The North Country, Western New York, are way more reliant on Toronto and Montreal as economic engines than they are New York City. That's just a reality
right now,
of the situation.
It's really hurt New York.
Look, we've seen obviously a little bit of a slowdown in terms of tourism, especially coming from Canada, some of the businesses. But I fundamentally believe as we get the tax bill finalized and implemented, you start to engage in deregulation, you increase domestic production of energy, you get these trade deals online, the economy is going to boom. And I think upstate New York in particular will see a benefit. But here's the fundamental problem. Kathy Hochul can point the finger at that. New York leads the nation in outmigration for a reason. It has nothing to do with the weather or tariffs. It has everything to do with the high cost of living, the high cost of doing business, the declining quality of life. New York has the highest tax burden in the nation, the worst and most burdensome business regulations in the country. That is at her hand. And she has done nothing to fix that. And in fact, what she has done has created a situation where an avowed socialist is on the verge of becoming mayor of New York City.
Congressman, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but our conversation continues right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. Texas Republicans are trying to redraw congressional districts to pick up 5 seats here in New York. What are New Yorkers going to do about it? Well, Assemblyman Micah Lasher is here to explain. Because you actually have a bill that would call for a constitutional amendment to change things. Why? And explain it to us.
The state of Texas right now, at the behest of Donald Trump, is going through an unprecedented action of changing their congressional districts.
Trying to change.
Trying to change. Texas legislators have fled the state to try to prevent there from being a quorum. But what Governor Abbott, at Trump's request, is doing is trying to redraw the congressional lines in Texas in the middle of the decade.
Is that constitutional?
It is probably constitutional, but
Why?
it is because the Constitution provides for the distribution of seats to different states after every federal census, but states can, within the boundaries of the Constitution, reapportion within their border
they wouldn't
lines.
pick up a number of seats, but they could change them from Democrats to Republican or vice versa.
That's right. And what Texas is proposing to do would likely shift 5 seats from the Democratic column to the Republican column. And just to put that in perspective, it would leave Texas with 18% of its congressional seats held by Democrats in a state where Joe Biden won 46% of the vote.
So you're saying no bueno?
Well, what I'm saying is that New York can't sit on the sidelines when red states like Texas are playing by a fundamentally different set of rules, and we need to act.
But our Constitution doesn't allow you to act quickly, is that right?
That's right. Our Constitution, well, really the process that it takes to amend the Constitution takes some time. So
Two separately elected houses of the legislature.
That's right.
And then a referendum.
That's right. So we could not get this done in time for the 2026 elections. But the unfortunate reality is that I think because of Trump and the Republican Party's willingness to break through every norm and tradition to break our democracy, we're going to be living with continuous partisan redistricting for many, many years to come. And so even if we can't get it done for 26, 28 is going to be an important election. 2030 is going to be an important election, and we need to be in the game. Otherwise, New Yorkers' interests in Washington are not going to be represented.
So are you saying that New York is going to have to redraw its lines every 2 years?
What our proposal would allow New York to do is if another state has redrawn its congressional lines more than once in 10 years, New York can follow suit. So if Texas and those states step back from the brink and return to the traditional Democratic norm of drawing their congressional lines once every 10 years, we'll do the same.
But what if they do it? I mean, are you saying that if we do this constitutional amendment, could we be redrawing districts every 2 years, before every congressional election?
In effect, if that becomes the norm because of the Republican Party, if Donald Trump and his proxies and state governments across the country start changing their congressional lines every 2 years, yeah, I think New York needs to be in the game.
So here's the thing. 2 congressmen, Republicans actually, including Mike Lawler of New York, are saying that they're going to introduce a bill to stop this gerrymandering. What chance do you think that has of passing in a time when there's very total partisanship in Washington? Well,
Mike Lawler, first of all, has a history of being moderate when it suits him and being Trump's handmaiden when it doesn't. So I'm very skeptical of anything that he has to say. But if the Republicans in Washington want to impose a national law that brings us back to the norms that they themselves are breaking, then I'm all for that. Color me skeptical.
So let me ask you this, though. Right now, it's just Texas. Do you think there are going to be other states, other red states, that are going to try to follow suit in this election cycle so they can affect the 2026 congressional races?
I think so. It's being actively discussed in a number of other states that where Republicans control the legislature. I think Missouri is talking about it. There are 4 or 5 states where there have been active conversations about this. And I do think that if Republicans, particularly if Republicans see that they can get away with it and Democrats will sit back with our hands tied behind their backs, then yes, I think we can expect Republicans to do this in red states around the country. And the stakes are incredibly high, and this is, I think, the important point.
Why are the stakes so high?
Because control of the Congress is a very close matter. And if Republicans can redraw their lines whenever and however they like, it will cement one-party control of Congress permanently. We will have basically no competition for control of the Congress. That's what that's what elections look like in Russia. They have elections, just the winner is foreordained, and that's what we'll have in America if Republicans get away with this.
Well, won't there be a challenge in the Supreme Court?
There may well be. Number one, it's not clear to me that there is a constitutional violation of the act of more frequent redistricting. Certainly Republicans are trampling all over the Voting Rights Act and our civil rights protections. Unfortunately, this Supreme Court has already demolished that doctrine. So I'm not particularly hopeful that we're going to find salvation in the courts. We have to find salvation in our willingness to fight back.
Yeah, but we can't even fight back for the 2026 election. So are you saying we're sort of throwing up our hands and saying it's not going to, New York is going to not be able to compete in terms of getting Democratic seats in 2026?
Well, I think I'm saying the opposite in a certain sense, which is I think throwing up your hands would be saying, since we can't do it for 2026, it's not even worth doing at all. I take the opposite view. I think that we have to play a long game. Republicans make their plans in decades and lifetimes, and Democrats are often very short-sighted with short attention spans for political strategies. We need to make this change now, so we are equipped to participate in a battle that's going to go on for many election cycles.
But what about other states that have that lean Democratic?
I would encourage every Democratic state to see themselves as one of 50 players on the field of redistricting. And when it comes to Congress, what is at stake is whether we have free and fair elections nationally for Congress. And if we have red states that can draw their lines however they want, and blue states that are holding themselves to a higher standard, that isn't free and fair elections.
So how can we, in a democracy, have a situation where we're going to have the lack of what you call free and fair elections going forward?
Well, I think we need to fight like hell.
And even if we just do it in one state, New York, what about all the rest of the states? I mean, right now, red states outweigh the blue states if you take a look at the results of the last election.
Look, let me be really clear. The direction that we're headed in as a country is nothing that I or any Democrat I know wants. The breakdown of norms, the breakdown of rules, the constant chaos. But the reality is that if Democrats don't fight back, we will lose our democracy, and New Yorkers will suffer. What we see, this isn't just ideological, what we see from the Trump regime is a program that's damaging and devastating to the people of New York, to our economy, to our health care, to our education. These people want to do enormous damage to New York. So this is about preserving our democracy, and it's about standing up for the interests of New Yorkers in Congress.
Micah Lasher, thank you for joining me. We're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we will be right back. Thank you for joining me. Subway fares are scheduled to rise to $3 in January, and many strap hangers are saying, ouch. They're weighing in on your point. Is $3 too much to pay for the subway?
Yes.
No.
No?
It's worth it.
I think that for many people it is.
It depends on your finances, I would guess.
Sometimes it feels like it is a lot, but you get used to it, I guess.
I think the cost of living in New York City is on par with that.
Subways are expensive things to run.
Honestly, with the cost of driving where I'm from, I think it's pretty affordable.
Stop.
What?
Stop for a second. Is $3 too much to pay for the subway?
It's what, $3?
Is $3 too much to pay?
For me, it doesn't bother me.
Is $3 too much to pay for the subway?
Yes, it is.
Why?
First of all, the service is not the best. Some of the trains are really heated. There are a lot of homeless people still on the subway. I don't feel safe. You want me to go on and on?
Okay.
I mean, seriously.
So how much should it cost to ride buses and subways?
$2.5 to $3.
I would say $1.50 or below.
The $1.45, I think that I'm paying now the half price is quite wonderful, and for a lot of people, that's what they can afford.
Free.
Free?
Yes.
Okay.
Free for New Yorkers.
I haven't a clue, but I don't think $3 is excessive given what everything else costs in the universe these days. I do, however, love your shirt.
Well, the buses should be free. And, you know, $3 is okay for the subway and stuff.
Do you think buses should be free?
I think if they can be free and if it can be done reasonably, then yes.
For senior citizens, yes.
Not for everyone. I think people should pay.
I don't like to use the buses, so I don't know.
Should buses be free?
No,
Why not?
because somebody has to pay for the infrastructure of the city.
It's going to cost one way or another, whether you pay taxes. My taxes are going to go up. So it's nice, it's fun, it's a great soundbite, but no.
Do you think New York City will ever have free mass transit?
Oh, gosh, no.
I don't think so.
No, but I don't know many cities who have free mass transit.
Not in the near future. One thing I will say is the amount of people hopping turnstiles in the subway should tell you all you need to know about the types of prices that are around right now.
I doubt it. Nothing here is free. Nothing free in this city.
Do you think New York City will ever have free mass transit?
No.
Because?
Well, because I think the planet will come to an end before they get around to it.